Why'd you go atheist? It's a lot easier to believe that there is not a God rather than to believe he hates you.
I was struck by lightning.
Life and existence is this incredible mystery.
That's the point of life, is the I don't know, but I believe.
But I want to be able to show people that the gospel is cool and like God is cool.
All right. Emma Weichers.
Hello.
How are we?
Good. How are you?
I'm so good. Welcome to We're Oblivious.
Thank you.
Do you feel oblivious?
Yeah, I'm so oblivious
Good,
all the
because
time.
we're gonna dive into this and see how oblivious you really are.
Okay.
Just kidding. We actually want to hear your story because you have a beautiful and unique story. And actually, for everyone who is listening, Emma Weichers is actually one of my best friends ever since, well, our good days.
Second grade. Just kidding.
Well, second grade?
I wish.
No.
So
Cute. Since middle school, probably. Well,
high
school we became friends, and then
middle school we knew each other. High school became best friends. Senior year, siblings.
Exactly. I was like the third twin. She has another twin, by the way.
He's the triplet.
Yeah,
He's the added one.
I'm the triplet. Yeah. So cute. Basically, the reason I wanted you to come be on this podcast is because you have such a beautiful and unique story and such a beautiful advice, I think, for the world. I think everyone needs to hear. And so I haven't done a podcast episode in a while, but I don't see any greater way to start it back up again and get things going again other than to share your story, because I think that there are many short stories that we could tell and many things we could talk about, but I think a lot of people, especially right now, could really relate to the things that you've been through. And so that's why I love you, Emma, and I cannot wait for you to share your story.
I love you, Ruben. You're so nice. Thank you. Thank you for letting me come on here and talk to you guys. You're the best.
Thank you for coming. But before we begin, I want to read a nice little scripture that Easton actually gave to us. It's actually from a book, but this is Paul. Okay. And we're gonna read this, and then we're gonna dive into everything. Okay. But it says, okay. So this is in Romans 7:15 through 24, and as I start reading, you'll know why I'm reading this. And it says, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate to do, and if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is, it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me, for I know that that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is a sin living in me that does it. So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law, but I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. What a wretched man I am. And so this is Paul speaking in Romans. And the reason I share this scripture is because based off of our conversations that we've had before, I think we see lots in life right now where we're just faced with so many different choices day in and day out. And I think your story is so beautifully describes this and the war that every single person has in their mind each and every day. And so without further ado, I kind of just want to just start diving into your story as to how God has changed your life and how he's helping you and how he's changing you forevermore. Not to say that anyone is perfect or that you have it down, because nobody does.
Yeah, no one.
But I think for sure a lot of people can relate to the way that you feel and the things that you've been through. And so I kind of want to start off, Emma, if you just want to kind of start off with kind of explaining what you've been through this last year, with giving as much detail as you feel comfortable doing. Yeah. And we can kind of just go from there.
Yeah. Okay, so forgive me if I am all over the place, but I'll try to articulate my thoughts right. So I'm actually so grateful to share this story just because I'm so grateful for everything that happened this last year. I think that it's brought me a lot closer to God and my Savior, and it's taught me a lot, and it's made me a lot stronger. And so if I could share this story and help anyone out there, like that's why I want to share it, to help someone that might be going through something similar to what I went through. So thank you for letting me be here.
No, thank you.
But yeah, I can start. So basically this last year was really tough for me, and there was a lot of deep-seated things that I've struggled with since my childhood, but this last year kind of was like the hardest. I don't know how to explain it. It was like the hardest point of my life, but a lot of it was I was going through similar insecurities I've always kind of had, but it just was escalated to like the worst time I've ever been through. I don't know if that makes sense, but just like to preface, like ever since I was a little girl, and me and REUBEN have talked about this a lot because we tend to share some similar insecurities. But ever since I was a little girl, for some reason, I have struggled with not feeling like smart enough or good enough. And I know a lot of people can relate to not feeling enough or not, just having insecurities and different things like that. But for some reason, specifically, it's always been that I haven't been smart enough. And just growing up, that was really hard for me, and it brought me a lot of anxiety to just constantly feel like I was not living up to everyone else or how they were living, or I'd put everyone else on a pedestal, and I could never get there, if that makes sense. I'd compare myself to my siblings, to my friends, and they were always like this, and I was always like this. They could do hard things, I couldn't for some reason. And that was always something that brought me a lot of anxiety growing up, but I feel like I was able to really handle it well. Like I coped with it well. I have always been a really social, outgoing, happy person, and so I think that's
The
what.
most.
No.
The most. I actually I just to put something in there really quick. Actually, growing up, not growing up, but I mean as far as when I came to know you, you were the most happiest, most energetic, and outgoing person, and any single time you walked in a room, you made everybody in the room smile.
Oh,
and you made
that is
everybody
so
feel
nice.
heard and seen.
Thank you.
And I think that is a big part of why I see such an amazing story from you, is because of the things that you've seen and the things you've been through, and to see your comeback is just so beautiful.
Thank you, REUBEN. I love you. Okay, he's the exact same way. You're the most lit up, happy, amazing person in the world, and everyone knows it. But thank you. So growing up, I feel like I coped with a lot of those feelings just through my friends, through being happy and being outgoing and being hyper and crazy and fun and different things like that. And the first time it got really, really bad was on my mission. So that was the first depression phase I've ever gone through. I'd never had struggled with depression growing up. I was always kind of a little bit anxious, but never really struggled with depression. But on my mission, it kind of, all of those insecurities I was telling you guys about, where I didn't feel like I was smart enough or capable like other people were, where I'd put other people on a pedestal, really came out on my mission. I compared myself to everyone, and I didn't feel like I was good enough to be out there, I was smart enough, worthy enough, and it just ate me alive. To the point where I couldn't function. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't myself. I lost my personality. I hated everything about myself for some reason. I don't know why it got so bad, but it did. And I ended up coming home early, and that didn't help my confidence at all, because, I'm wow, other people can do these hard things. Other people can serve a mission and fight through it, but I can't. And man, I just went against God's will, and I came home, and everyone grows and learns so much on their mission, and they come back a better person. But I just came home early, and I just rid myself of that opportunity to grow. So that was the first time in my life where I really felt extremely depressed and worthless. But luckily, very gratefully, after a few months, things really did start to get better. As I was home, I was going to counseling and doing different things. And I think the most important thing that helped me is I did a service mission, and I worked in the temple, and I did a lot of things that brought me closer to Christ and helped me rely on him and helped me realize that, you know, God is not a black and white God. He is not going to like rid me of the chance to grow and learn just because I came home early. Like, he's going to give me different opportunities to grow and learn. And that was so cool to learn that, you know, I didn't do like maybe what everyone else was doing, you know, serving their full-time mission, different things, but I still got to serve at home. And then honestly, after that, like, I felt I was in a pretty good place. I went back to BYU or BYU for my first time. I got into BYU and I was going back to college, and life was like pretty up from there. And that testimony that I gained from coming home from my mission and seeing the growth that he allowed me to have was amazing and something I'll always be grateful for. And also, you can interrupt me at any time. I don't want you to feel like,
No.
Yeah, but so life was going good. Everything was going good. And then actually, it's kind of crazy because it was last year around this time that things started getting bad. But yeah, it was fall semester, so like September. But I'm not going to get like super into the details of what kind of triggered the anxiety and depression. But like, long story short, it was 4 months of a really up and down relationship with someone that I really, really cared about and loved a lot. And I have always kind of been anxious in relationships and never felt right about it until this one. And so I think for it to go the opposite direction was really hard for me. And there was just a lot of different things with school that semester and that relationship that really triggered a lot of anxiety that I had never really felt before. Yeah. Like I said, in the past, I felt it on my mission, that anxiety and depression, but this was like to a whole different extent where I just kind of started to lose myself. And yeah, it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just, you know, things happen. And it was 4 months of just like really, really intense anxiety. And so then when the next school semester came around, that was fall semester, winter semester came up, and I decided to drop out of my classes. I was already in my classes, but like 2 weeks in the semester, I just decided to withdraw because I was mentally just so unwell. I was so anxious and just so like depressed. I wasn't as depressed as I'll get into. I was sad, but at this point I was just more just like so anxious. I couldn't even focus on anything, not on school. It was really hard for me to, I mean, and I'm sure like a lot of people can relate. I know that mental health is a big thing these days, and sometimes the anxiety can get so debilitating, and unless you're going through it, you don't really understand, but it's really hard to be yourself or just function normally. And that's kind of why I withdrew from my classes. I didn't think I would be able to perform well, and I thought I needed a break. And so that's what I did. I withdrew, and because of that, I lost the job that I had on campus, and I was kind of just like stuck. I didn't have school, I didn't have work. And I think I kind of was like, it was kind of like going back to my mission where I felt like I gave up on something. And I felt like I didn't really have any worth. Like there's students that, you know, work full-time jobs and go to school, and of course they have the mental things they're going through too, but they're pushing through, you know, and I had to withdraw from my classes, and I was also super depressed about this relationship, and just, it was just a really, really bad time. And I didn't have a job, so for like a few months I was looking for a job, and I was hoping I'd get one within the first like week of not being in school, but that's not how it went down, and that definitely didn't help my confidence either, not being able to find a job.
What made it hard to find a job?
I don't know. I think I maybe mentioned this. For sure, I know like the job market is not super easy right now, and I think it was in the middle of the semester, so it's like not a good hiring time. But a big part of it, honestly, is at that point in my life, I had like the least amount of confidence I've ever had. And so I feel like every job interview I went into, I didn't have 1 ounce of confidence in me. Like I was not myself at all. I was really down, and I'm sure they could see that, and I'm sure they didn't want someone like that working for them. So that's embarrassing for me. But I mean, like I said, it definitely destroyed my confidence more, knowing that I couldn't even get a job. So at this point in my life, I was kind of just feeling super worthless. Like I had no worth. For some reason, that like fall semester, like I said, that triggered all the anxiety and depression, kind of brought back my insecurities of not feeling smart enough, not feeling good enough, capable enough. And I just started to really, really hate myself. And it got really, really bad to the point where, I was telling you about this, where it was like constant, all day negative thoughts, like, and it's just like I could not control it. And I don't know if like people listening have ever had like OCD thoughts, like the spiraling thoughts, and sometimes they sound kind of crazy, but you really can't control them. Like, it's not like you're choosing all day to think negatively about yourself. But it got to the point where it was like 24 hours a day, just negativity. And I've always been insecure about like not being smart enough and different things like that, but it never been to the point where it was like every second of the day, like finding reasons to beat myself down, make me feel worthless. Like anyways. And so that's kind of what led to the depression, was the hating myself so much to the point where I just didn't feel like I had any worth anymore. And months went on, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I was going to counseling. I like got on medication. I was doing lots of different things, and nothing was getting better. And when you try a lot of different things, you know, and you're praying, you're trying to do all the things right, you know, and nothing's changing, after months and months on end, I think it's really easy to start to feel hopeless. And when you feel hopeless, that's kind of when it just gets really bad, you know, when you don't really, because hope is what we all need to cling to, you know, in this earthly world where we go through trials and things. But when you lose hope, that's when I feel like it gets really tricky. And so I kind of did start to lose hope, because it had been so long that I had been feeling this way. And I'd never been like depressed like that before for like such a long period of time, that I kind of just felt like that was like the new me. Yeah. And I lost myself. I like we were saying before, I am a very outgoing person. I love people. I love planning things with my friends. I love that. And that I lost that. Like and once I lost that, it was like game over. It was like, okay, so I'm not smart. I'm not capable enough to be in school or do like hard things like other people can. And now I'm not even fun anymore. Like, I'm not even happy, and I'm not even personable anymore. I can't talk to people anymore. I don't even want to hang out with my friends. Like, I have nothing going for me.
How was your relationship with God at that time?
Honestly, like, I don't know. I feel like if people have experienced depression or anxiety before, or just a mental illness, it really sometimes is hard to feel the Spirit during that time. And I've talked to some friends who have talked to me about that, because I remember feeling really guilty. I'd tell them, like, I don't even want to pray anymore. Like, I don't feel anything, and I don't feel the Spirit anymore. And it's been like almost 6 months of not feeling the Spirit. Like, why? And I'm going to the temple, I'm praying, I'm doing these things. But I remember my friend, Jessie, actually. Yeah. She's amazing, and she helped me so much during this time. But she is so close to God, and she would always tell me, like, Emma, you have to remember, it's not your fault you can't feel the Spirit. Like, sadly, like, there's 2 things that can separate you from feeling the Spirit. And one is sin, like choosing to sin. Like, of course, you're not going to feel the Spirit if you're choosing to sin in that moment. Right. And the other is mental illness. And of course you can overcome that, but there's going to be times in your life where you don't have the Spirit with you. And so I was still praying, I was still doing the things, but I didn't feel the Spirit. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. I think there might be other people who can relate to that, but I think especially with like something like this that's going on in your life that's so profound, to lose like what feels like almost everything. I remember when we were talking about this before, like you said, that just like once you don't have that, you don't have what you feel like the one thing that like the one things that you truly held on to, God and like your personality. Like that's where like things can get super tricky and very, very hard to navigate, and things can get hard very fast.
Yeah.
And like moving on past that like moment, like what happened next, like what followed those events.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what you said. Once I realized that I don't have like what I thought at the time was my only strength.
Yeah.
And then obviously that guidance from God and that relationship with him, that was when things started getting like really, really bad. And it got so bad to the point where, I didn't really want to be here anymore. And I had never experienced that before, and I didn't know how real it felt until you go through it, you know? Yeah. But it started to go from, you know, just like a few thoughts a day to like all day trying to get it out of my head. But kind of like I was saying earlier, the spiraling thoughts, it's like I couldn't control it, but I'll just say I was just having a lot of suicidal thoughts that I didn't want to be here anymore, thoughts that there wasn't any point because, like I said, like I didn't have anything to give anymore. And I know it seems so silly because it was just like 6 months of this, and like that's just a short time in a span of a lifetime. But at the time, I wasn't thinking clearly. All I was thinking about was not wanting to deal with this anymore, you know? And so
it's not silly, by the way.
Well, I know it's not silly. But it's just things do get better, and sometimes you have to wait it out. But in the moment when you're in your darkest times, it's really hard to see that, and it's really hard to have hope. Yeah. And I think what was the hardest for me, and I think I told you this, is because I kind of lost like my personality and different things. And if you're someone who's gone through really intense depression before, you'll probably relate to this. But it got so bad to the point where I didn't feel anything anymore. Like I said, I've always been kind of an anxious person, but like had zero anxiety anymore, zero anything. Like I stopped caring about the people I love, and that is when it like really scared me. I stopped caring about my family, my friends. I didn't even know if I like loved them, which, like I said, sounds crazy, and I love them more than anything. But when you're going through something like that and you're so depressed, it's like you're so numb to any feeling. And so I didn't really think about my family or my friends, and that really scared me. And that's what spiraled into the suicidal thoughts. And, you know, like, why am I here if like, yeah, I can't even express love for anyone. Yeah. And so, like I said, I had been going to counseling, doing a lot of those things, but I think things started to turn the corner. Once I actually went to the hospital, in May. It was in May of this last year. And it was for just suicidal ideation, and I wanted to take my life, but I was thinking about it in different things, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that to my family. So I told my sister, who had been through similar things, similar depression and suicide ideation and different things like that. And she had been to the hospital before for a similar thing. And so she told me that I should go. And it was literally like, this is the most embarrassing part of the story, but it was literally Mother's Day. But that just goes to show, like, I wasn't even thinking about my mom back then. Like I wasn't thinking about anyone. Like I was just so, like now if I was thinking about like telling my mom something like that on Mother's Day, I would feel so terrible, but I just was so numb to all feeling. And so I went to the hospital. I stayed there for, I think, a few days, like 3 to 4 days. But it was really scary, I'll be honest, because, you know, there's people there for all different reasons. A lot of it is suicide attempts or just different like mental illnesses that they're dealing with that make it hard to function. Right. And it was scary, like, but it was a really pivotal moment for me in my story because it was the first time in like 7 months that I felt the Spirit and that I like actually felt something again. And that's what I had been praying for months and months and months, was to just feel something. Like even if it was anxiety or like love for like my mom, like I just wanted to feel something, to know that I was like a good person. Like I thought that I was like evil because I wasn't feeling anymore for people that I loved. I thought I was a narcissist because all I thought about was myself, and like of course I wasn't praising myself. Narcissists praise themselves, but I was like hating on myself all day and only thinking about that and not thinking about others. So I was just praying every single day to just feel something. God, like, please make me feel love for just one person. And being at the hospital, I think seeing other people struggle and seeing people who are way worse off than me. And I met a girl there that was around my age that is amazing. And she had been through something harder than me. But despite that, she was asking me questions about me. She was asking how I was doing. She was like worried about me. And I was like so just like touched, because I was like, you know, yes, like I'm going through something, but you're going through something so much worse. And she was just like so concerned about me. And it was like the first time that I started to feel empathy again. And I remember being in the hospital room. Everyone has like their own room. And I remember just praying and just crying, and being so filled with the Spirit. And it was the first time, like I said, I felt the Spirit in a long, long time. And I think it was really pivotal for me because it made me realize, like, there is hope. Like, it really, in that moment, it was just a glimmer. Like, it didn't last. I'll be honest, when I left the hospital, still months after, was struggling really bad. But that was the first glimpse of hope that I got, was in that hospital. And I think it just made me realize, you know, that I can do this, that I can keep fighting, and that I don't need to give up, you know, that there is hope and God is aware of me. And so going out of the hospital, I got a really strong prompting to, I just, you know, got out of the hospital, started getting back to real life. Like I said, things were still really, really hard. That was kind of just a glimpse. But I started getting a prompting to go to this person that REUBEN actually told me about. His name is Mike Simpson, and he's an amazing resource if anyone is looking for a counselor or just like a mentor. But I had been going to him before, but I was just like so down bad that I feel like I wasn't listening to anything he was saying, and it wasn't really helping me. But I got a prompting after the hospital to go back to him, and I was like, that's so weird. Like, I've already done so many sessions with this guy, like, but okay, like I'll try it. Like, I'll do anything. Yeah. And so, and by the way, his title, he's like a hypnotherapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he does hypnotherapy. With me, we did some hypnotherapy, like more meditation type stuff, but a lot of the things we did was just talking. I don't know why, I kind of just preferred just normal like talk therapy. Yeah. And so I started going back to him, and that was amazing. He is amazing, and I think what's different about him is his whole focus is healing people and their struggles and their mental illnesses or anything that they're struggling with. whether that's addiction or whatever it is, through the atonement of Jesus Christ. And so I just love that because, like at the end of the day, you know, I could do all the things. I could get on medicine, I could exercise, I could go to counseling, all the things. But if I'm not willing to like give it over to God, and like really rely on him, like the healing is not going to be the same, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, Mike Simpson taught me something, that really helped start to, get rid of those negative thoughts I was talking about earlier, where it was like the 24/7 negative thoughts.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so what he taught me, was just kind of like a little, analogy of you being in a car. So, every time a negative thought or like a thought that might trigger you, like an anxious thought comes into your mind, he told me to, pretend like I'm driving a car and I pull up to this stop sign, and the thought's going to come in my head, like, for example, like, maybe I got a thought, like, I don't know, maybe I saw someone in public that was really, I compared myself to, and it made me feel really stupid, or, like, I, like, wasn't like them, and I'm not good enough, or whatever. So that thought comes into my mind, and at the stop sign, I can choose to turn right, or I can choose to turn left. And turning right is turning to God and asking him to walk with me, to overcome that thought. And then turning left would be where I'm used to turning, and that's, you know, believing that thought and like letting it spiral and get worse and worse, because you have these thoughts and they come, and then if you let them sink in, and they like just spiral and they get worse and worse and worse. And, anyways, and so you really have to learn how to discipline your mind. And I think, especially in this day of age with social media and like the fast-paced world and comparison and everything, learning how to discipline your mind is so important, because it's so easy to compare and think negatively about yourself and hate on yourself. But that is what Mike Simpson taught me to do. He taught me how to turn every single thought I had over to God. And it seemed really silly at first, because he told me basically every time that I choose to turn right in that scenario in my mind, I have to say a prayer to God and ask him to specifically help me overcome that negative thought. And I was like, that's so silly. Like, I don't think you understand. I have a negative thought like every millisecond of every day about myself. Like, it's so bad that it's all encompassing. Like, how am I just supposed to pray all day? Like, right. I'm in public, I'm doing things like, and he was like, I know it sounds silly, you know, but there's nothing wrong with turning every thought you have over to the Lord. And you're still, it's not like you're just sitting doing nothing, praying all day. You're still going to counseling. You're still doing the things. And so that's what I started to do. And it took a long time, because I was very prideful, and I would think I thought it was silly to pray like every second of every day. But he promised me that the more that I did it, the more that I like tried to discipline my mind and turn every thought I had over to God and ask him to walk with me and replace that thought with a more positive thought, that those thoughts would like slowly go from like 100 million thoughts a day to like, I don't know, 20,000, and it would go down. And I didn't really believe him at first, but it really did start to work after like a couple months of really, really focusing on that and really humbling myself enough to turn everything over to God. Because at that point in my life, it was like I had tried so many different things, and I think I was like, you know, I have to give it to him. Like, he has to take this from me, because I can't do it anymore. And that's kind of what Mike Simpson taught me. And it really things did start to get better. But I do want to say one other thing that I think really helped me. And there were so many things that helped. Like, there's so many resources, and I'm so grateful that God gives us so many resources to help us, because he knows we're going to face trials or go through different mental things, but there's so many resources today. And some of those things were obviously going to Mike Simpson. My family was amazing. Like, I could not have done it without them. They did not give up on me. when I had given up on myself. And I think that really helped me realize if they're not going to give up on me, like I can try a little harder not to give up on me, you know? So that really helped. My sister, who had gone through similar things, was like my rock during that time. She had told me that every time you go through a hard trial, or for our situation, like a depressive episode or an anxious episode of life where it's like a long period of time that you're struggling with that every time you have that, you learn tools each time to make you stronger for the next. Mm-hmm. And that was so helpful for me because it gave me hope to know that, like, yeah, this hard time sucks, but I'm going to learn different tools to help me so that maybe next time, like, when another hard time comes up, I'm going to be stronger to face that because of what I'm going through now. Right. So it kind of gave me that purpose, like, there is a purpose to this. That really helped me. And then the last thing I'll say that really helped me was, and this is for, like, anyone that's interested in trying this because it's really, really cool, but it's called TMS, and it's transcranial magnetic stimulation. Sounds weird, but it's a really good, I don't know how to explain it, method to treat depression, and especially, like, really intense depression. And so it's basically, like, I'll just explain it really quick. Yeah. But the whole point of it is try to rewire your brain, because your brain, there's a chemical imbalance up there. Something's going on. Your brain needs to be rewired. And so that's basically what it does. Is you go in, it's a 36-day treatment, and you're hooked up to this machine, and there's this helmet, and it sounds really crazy and weird. But it's kind of like a natural remedy treatment, because it's not like medicine where you're going to see the side effects. The only really bad side effect is like headaches. Right. But it kind of just like pulses, the helmet like pulses. And how they explained it to me was it's just a way to help rewire the brain, anyways, I think the balance with that and going to Mike Simpson, those two focuses on like rewiring my brain and learning how to discipline it and learning how to like think more positively about myself is really what helps the most. And this is so silly. I'm going to say one other thing. Please. Because this was like a couple months before I started like really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But I was also going to the psychiatrist for medication and different things like that. And this is just a very simple thing, but I told him about the negative thoughts, how like no matter what, they don't go away. It's all day long and I don't know what to do. And he told me a little method that he does every night before he goes to bed. And it's very simple, but, you got to get out like those thoughts somewhere or they're just going to stay stuck in your head. And so he told me that every night before bed, just spend 5 minutes, like not a big time commitment, writing down every negative thing that happened during the day or thought that I had. So get the negative thoughts out first, and then after that, get out the positive things that happen in the positive thoughts. And then the third thing is get out like what you're grateful for that happened that day. And it's a very simple thing, but I think the really cool thing about it is it kind of forces you to start looking for the good. Mm-hmm. Like I started noticing that because I knew I was going to be writing in my journal that night about the positive things that happened that day, I was like looking for positive things. Yeah. And I was looking, for good things to happen and things to be grateful for. And sometimes you kind of just need to open your eyes. Yeah. I felt like it was like 8 months of me being so blinded by everything. Like I couldn't see anything. Yeah. All I saw was sadness, depression, negativity. But once I started like, going to Mike Simpson, TMS, trying to think more positively, disciplining my mind, and it was a lot of work. But once it started setting in, I realized like there's a whole world that I wasn't seeing. Right. God started opening my eyes and making me realize like that I am a good person, like that I am smart, and that I do have things to give to the world. And I long story short, like I started getting my personality back. my friends like were surprised because I started inviting them to things, and before I didn't even want to go to the things they invited me to, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I just started to get my light back slowly.
Yeah.
And it was around July, that was when things really started to like I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, like people say. And ever since then, it's been, I don't know how many months now. What month is it? It's November.
November, yeah.
Like 5-ish months. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't do math in my head. Just kidding. I don't know. No, I'm joking. But like I can say with like confidence that, you know, of course, thoughts come, whatever. But those 1,100,000 thoughts I was having a day have gone down to like maybe 3 negative thoughts a day, and I don't think I've ever been happier. I feel really more confident than I think I've ever felt in myself. And that is going down from how I felt about myself since I was a little girl. Like, this is a deep-seated struggle that I've always had. It got really intensified this last year, but it's always been a problem. And I think I needed to go through the worst hell of my life to make me realize that it's time to turn around and it's time to rewrite my story. And I don't have to believe all those things about myself, and I don't have to tell myself that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough to go to college, I'm not competent enough to like be a mom. And I told myself I couldn't do anything. I didn't think I'd ever get married, have kids, have a normal life. Like, I thought that my life was over. But it's just, that's so not the truth. And like, I'm here today to say that things do get better, even if it takes a lot of time. But yeah, I think I told REUBEN this when we talked the other day. And just like thinking about this last year and everything I went through, I would never want to go back to that. Obviously, it was so bad, and it's so hard to be so numb to something that you don't even want to live anymore. But I am so grateful that it happened, because I would never understand what it feels like to be that depressed. Like, I've heard people say before, like, I'm suicidal, or I'm so depressed I can't get out of bed, I can't even brush my teeth. Like, I don't have any motivation for life. And, you know, before I'd be like, oh, like, that's so hard, but I just don't understand how someone can't, like, get out of bed in the morning. Like, it's not that hard, which that sounds so rude, but this was me in the past. Like, I was like, how, like, you know, but because of what I went through, like, I know what it's like to literally not want to brush your teeth because you don't want to move. Like, you don't want to do anything. And you lose everything about who you are. And I know what that's like. And I know everyone's story is different, and I don't understand a lot of what people are going through. And just people go through terrible, terrible things. But I'm grateful that at least I had a sliver of something that someone in the future that I might run into might be going through, and maybe I can give them hope to know that things will get better, and that, you know, God is to be relied on. Like, we can rely on him, and he can help us, and sometimes it takes forever, and we don't understand why it takes so long and why he's not answering our prayers right away. But, like, it doesn't mean that there's no hope. There's always hope. And, like, if I went from how I was, and I, like, a lot of people who know me really well, they saw me when I was super depressed, like, wouldn't even recognize me today, because I don't know, I think I got my light back, you know, and you did. And there is hope. Like, you can find that light again, and it takes work, it takes effort, there's resources, relying on God and giving him your burdens, but it is possible. And I want people to know that it is possible, because I'm repeating myself a lot, but
it's beautiful. I think,
yeah,
if I may, I think,
of course,
I think you're a standing testimony of what Jesus Christ really can do for us. Like, as you sit here and you explain your story, like, I see so many examples of how Jesus Christ has blessed and helped you and how he's helped all those around you. Like, you think about it, like, Emma, like, Jesus Christ, when he suffered on the cross and he bore all the burdens of every single person in the world, he was in that moment able to relate to every single person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so beautiful how every single person, we all go through our different trials and our different tribulations, but like no matter what, those things are for our good. And the reason they're for our good is because we can relate to other people and we can mourn with those that mourn. And the same way that your sister was able to be there for you because of the things that she has been through, you can now be that same anchor for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And back to what you're talking about with putting the thing on your head, the TMS,
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounds silly because it's like, it sounds silly because it looks silly, but
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, like when I think about that, it's like, to me, that's like what humility looks like. Like, it looks silly, it may seem silly, it doesn't make sense. It's like, what the heck? Like, how is
What
this
are you
thing on my
doing?
head? Yeah, like, why the heck am I supposed to do
Never
that?
seen that before.
Yeah.
What, like,
Exactly.
crazy stuff.
Exactly. But you humbled yourself and you said, okay, let me try it out. Maybe I don't know, but let's try it out. And then you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that mixed with going to Mike and other people, reaching out to other people who are going to be these resources to help you,
Mm-hmm.
like that is what helps you. And to me, that is just like, that is the perfect example of what the atonement can do for every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know, like, you probably would never want to go back and do it again, but for that reason, I think that is why you're going to be such a light, an example to so many people in the future, because you can now relate to everyone else who have been through the same things in a way that some people can't.
Yeah.
And I think that is, you're learning how to be like Jesus Christ in that same way. And I can tell you now, I can see the light of Jesus Christ as you tell your story and as you share your story.
Thank you. That's so nice. No, I think, well, thank you so much. That means a lot. But I think the best part, like, and I just want to emphasize this over everything, is the only reason why I am okay today and, like, my light is back is because of Jesus Christ and because of God. And, you know, like, turning to them and giving them my burdens and getting to the point where there was nothing else I could do. I had to give everything to him. But not only that, like you said, like the resources and things, Mike Simpson, like my psychiatrist, my family, TMS, whatever, like all of those things came into my life because of God. He saw that I was willing to try things and like put in effort, and he consecrated those efforts by, you know, you reaching out to me and telling me about Mike Simpson, and my mom not giving up on me and going to my psychiatrist appointments like every week until we figured out about TMS, and my friends that were always there for me. Like, these are all instruments that God blessed me with, and I owe everything to him. And like, if someone like says like in a short answer, like, what changed, how did you get better, like it's all because of him. And yeah, I want everyone to know that there's hope, because I thought for a while that for some reason the atonement maybe applied, and I've heard people say this before, but applied to other people, like they could get healed through the atonement, they can overcome depression or different things. But I just thought that I was so long gone that it didn't really apply to me, and I had been praying for so long without really seeing any results that I thought like maybe it was just hopeless, but it's really not. And even if it seems like it is, it's not. And you'll just become stronger for it in the end. You know, like, it kind of sucks that we have to go through all these things, and there's just so many variations of trials that people go through that are so much harder than this trial, or, I mean, we can't really compare our trials, but just terrible, terrible things. And sometimes we're like, how could a God, like, how could he do that to us? How could he let this happen to us? Like, how could you let me have this terrible depression to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore, and where I didn't feel empathy anymore? Like, why did it get so bad? But it's like he let it happen because he knew that I'd get stronger because of it. He didn't specifically be like, Emma, I'm going to give you depression, but he knows that we live in a fallen world where there's agency and trials, and we're humans that have, you know, mental issues at times and different things, and so he lets it happen to us sometimes because he knows we're going to grow because of it. And I wouldn't be stronger than I was a year ago today if it weren't for all of that. Like, I wouldn't have anything that made me stronger. And so I'm so grateful for him and for the trials that we go through, even if they suck like hell. They're so terrible. Yeah. But I don't know, I wouldn't know to rely on God without them. So yeah, and I don't know, is it okay if I share that scripture that we were talking about?
Please.
Okay. Reuben and I were talking about a scripture earlier today. I don't know where my phone is, though. Do you have yours?
I have Taylor's.
Oh, wait. My phone's right here. We're good. Yep. Okay. So, and it kind of just goes along with everything that we've been talking about. But let me pull up the text. It's a text from me and Reuben.
Read the text, too, while you're at it. No, I'm kidding.
I'll just read all our texts. No, so it says, "For behold, I have refined thee, I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction." And I think that's just a good reminder that God, you know, he sent us to this earth to refine us and mold us and turn us into better people and to help us become more like him. And he's going to do that through letting us go through really hard things. And through, because of that, we need to turn to him, and we need to humble ourselves and learn that we can't do on our own, but because of that, we get stronger and we get refined and we turn into better people. And I can say confidently that I feel like I'm a better person because of some of those afflictions. Every affliction I've had in my life, I feel like I've been a better person because of it. And it's really about, you know, do you let your trials make you stronger, or do you let them tear you down? And sometimes, I mean, I let my trial of being depressed tear me down for months and months on end, but it doesn't mean that it was too late. I was able to turn that over and rewrite my story, and I think everyone can rewrite their story. It's so possible, and just remembering that, you know, disciplining your mind and learning how to train your brain to think more positively is so possible. And sometimes it takes counseling, it takes resources, it takes turning to God, but it's possible. And I think everyone deserves to think highly of themselves, and of course be humble, but to love themselves and to see their light and to see the good about them. And I think that's so important, because if we feel good and confident about ourselves, then we're better able to treat other people and see the good in them and help other people. And so, yeah, it's totally possible. Anyways.
I love it. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much,
of course.
Emma. I honestly admire your faith so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I look up to you, and you have the light of Christ, I can tell you.
Thank you.
I love you nice. so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yes, of
course. This is going to help so many people.
Oh, thank you. Wait, can I say one more thing really fast?
Please.
Okay, I just want to say, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Like, I don't want to get up here and be like, I am healed, I'm the best, blah, 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 because I know, like, trials and things are going to keep coming. And, you know, I'm not perfect by any means, and I still struggle with insecurities and different things. But I think, like I was saying earlier, like, because of this time, like, I'm stronger for the next, and hopefully I learned tools to help that next trial come on. And yeah, I don't want anyone to think I'm like, oh, I'm so amazing. Like, I struggle with so much still, but but I have found resources to really help me. So I hope that can help other people too. Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you so much for letting me be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for tuning in to We're Oblivious. We hope you found this episode as enlightening and entertaining as we did. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback and support helps us to get our episodes to more people like you. Don't forget to visit our website at we'reoblivious.com. That's all one word, we'reoblivious.com, to access show notes, additional resources, and join our community. You can also follow us on social media, or I guess you can follow me on social media or on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Reuben Bradshaw. That's REUBEN BRADSHAWW. That's 2 W's. To stay updated on upcoming episodes and more behind the scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or people you think we should have on, or just want to say hello, please drop us a message at REUBEN@we'reoblivious.com. Your input drives the direction of our show. As we wrap up today, remember your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to share more insightful and inspiring content and dialogue with you next time. Until then, thanks for being part of the We're Oblivious community. See you in the next episode.